Have you ever stopped to think about how our most complex internal organs, our lungs, our stomach, our liver, all spring into existence from what starts as just a simple sheet of cells in an embryo? It seems impossible, right? Well, the answer is this incredible developmental journey, the story of a single layer of cells called the endoderm. And today, we're going to follow that story from the very beginning to the very end.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the body's foundational blueprints. Then, we're going to watch as a flat sheet does some amazing biological origami to become a tube. After that, we'll take a trip down the gut highway, check out all the amazing things that branch off of it, and finally, see how this whole internal world actually connects to the outside.
Every big construction project needs a blueprint. And in the developing embryo, it's not just one plan, but three, laid down as these distinct layers of cells. Each one has a totally unique job, and today, we're zeroing in on the one that literally builds us from the inside out.
It is a mind-blowing transformation, really. We start with what's basically just a two-layer disc, but the real architectural magic, the real genius, kicks in when this simple disc remodels itself into three distinct germ layers. This all happens during a super important process called gastrulation. So let's meet these three layers.
And here they are, the three master blueprints of the body. You've got the ectoderm on the outside, which gives rise to our skin and our entire nervous system. Then there's the mesoderm, that's the middle layer, forming our structural core, muscles and bones. But we're diving deeper, all the way to the endoderm. This is the layer that's responsible for creating the entire lining of our gut and all the major organs that go with it.
So how does this new layer even get made? Well, it all starts with this little groove, the primitive streak that shows up on the top layer of cells. This thing becomes like a cellular highway. Cells start migrating and then just dive right down through it. And the very first wave of these cellular travelers, they push aside the old bottom layer and, in its place, a brand new inner blueprint is born, the endoderm.
Okay, having a flat sheet of cells is a great start, but let's be real, our organs are not flat. So the next step is this absolutely breathtaking feat of biological origami, where this endoderm layer folds and curls in on itself to create the body's foundational pipeline, the primitive gut tube.
And perspective is everything when you're looking at this. If we were to slice the embryo like a loaf of bread and look at a cross-section, we'd see the sides folding inwards, pinching off to form that gut tube. But if you look at it from the side, what we call a sagittal view, you see the whole picture. The embryo is curling from head to tail, forming the entire length of this crucial tube. It's pretty amazing.
All right, let's take a little trip down this brand new tube, which really acts like a developmental highway. But it's not just one long, boring road. It's actually three distinct zones, and each zone has its own set of major construction projects for our future digestive system.
And the logic here is it's beautiful. The foregut, up at the head end, builds the upper GI tract, so from the esophagus down to the stomach. Then the midgut takes over, building that whole winding maze of our small intestines and the beginning of the large intestine. And finally, the hindgut finishes the job, constructing the last stretch of the colon and the rectum. It's like a perfect sequential assembly line.
But this highway has some pretty incredible off-ramps. The endoderm isn't just a simple tube. Oh no, it's an innovator. All along its length, specialized groups of cells start to bud and branch out, and these become the seeds of some of our most vital glands and organs.
Right at the very top, in the area that's going to become the pharynx, these fascinating little structures called pharyngeal pouches pop up. And what they become is just incredible, right? Pouch number 1 helps form our middle ear. Pouch 2 gives rise to our tonsils. And the third and fourth pouches develop into glands that are absolutely essential for our immune system and calcium balance, the thymus and parathyroids.
Now, a little further down the foregut, we see three huge construction projects kick off. A respiratory bud sprouts out, and that thing is destined to become our entire respiratory tract, trachea, bronchi, and lungs. Nearby, the hepatic bud starts its journey to form the liver and gallbladder, and the pancreatic bud, no surprise there, begins to form the pancreas.
So we've got our tube, we've got its organs, but for any of this to actually work, it needs an entrance and an exit. So let's check out how the two ends of this tube are formed and how, in a really clever developmental twist, it also connects with the urinary system.
So, at first, this gut tube is a totally closed system. It's sealed shut at both ends by these membranes, and they're basically just meeting points where the inner endoderm touches the outer ectoderm.
Eventually, the buccopharyngeal membrane up top is going to rupture to form the mouth, and the cloacal membrane at the bottom will open up to create the exits for both our digestive and urinary systems.
Now, down at the tail end, there's this common chamber called the cloaca. A really critical event has to happen here. This single chamber has to divide into two. The front part becomes the urogenital sinus, which will form the bladder and urethra. The back part becomes the anal canal. This separation is so vital. If it doesn't happen just right, it can lead to some really serious issues, which just goes to show how precise this whole process has to be. And here's something that is just absolutely fascinating. The anal canal itself has a dual identity. The upper 2/3 are built from our inner blueprint, the endoderm, but the lower third? That's actually formed from the outer blueprint, the ectoderm. And get this, there's a clear anatomical landmark called the pectinate line that marks the exact boundary where the inside meets the outside. How cool is that?
So after all that detail, how in the world can we remember all the huge responsibilities of the endoderm? Well, it's easy with this simple mnemonic, endo. E is for the epithelial lining of the entire gastrointestinal tract, from top to bottom. N is for those critical neck structures like the thyroid and thymus. D is for our drainer system, the bladder and urethra. And O is for the major organs that branch right off the gut tube, our lungs, liver, and pancreas.
So, there you have it. From a single flat sheet of migrating cells to a complex, three-dimensional network of tubes and life-sustaining organs, the story of the endoderm is truly a masterclass in biological engineering. It lays the absolute innermost foundation of who we are. It's just a powerful reminder that our most complex structures, they often begin with the simplest of plans.